afternoon, everyone. I just want to thank you all for joining us. We'll just give a couple seconds for people to pop in to the room. And if you want to, if you're around and you want to, do a quick introduction in the chat, feel free to do so. But yeah, just give it 2 more seconds. We are recording, so just be aware of that. This session will be available afterwards, so if you aren't able to stay the entire time, feel free to wait for the link that CSU will send out. All right, well, I think we've got, some people in here right now. We're just really glad that you're joining us, virtually. This is a very, very strange time. This is actually going to be one of my first times doing a virtual info session this fall. So bear with us as we figure out some of the kinks and challenges of technology, if we do have them. I know we're all doing our best, and I know, for myself and all of the folks at AIFS, we're really looking forward to getting you all abroad once it's safe to do so again. So, if you have any questions on that, feel free to, put those in the chat or ask throughout the session. I want to quickly introduce myself before we get too far into it, and then I'll let my co-presenters introduce themselves as well. My name is Michelle Walters, and I am based in Oakland, California. I've worked with AIFS all over the US for the past 12 years, and specifically with universities in Colorado for, I think it's been about the past 7 years. So I have had the opportunity to come and visit Fort Collins many times, and absolutely love the town that y'all are in. I studied abroad with AIFS many years ago when I was an undergrad at Washington State. I was at the University of Limerick in Ireland. And then after I graduated, I spent a few summers working with an indigenous community in the Amazon jungle during my grad school research period. I'll go ahead and hand it over to you, Natalie, and then Lauren, if you want to introduce yourself afterwards.
Oh, great, thanks. So hi, my name is Natalie Gately, and I'm currently a senior at the University of South Carolina, where I'm studying marketing with a concentration in business analytics and a minor in Spanish. So with that minor, I actually went and studied abroad in Salamanca, Spain, at the Universidad de Salamanca in the spring 2020 semester, and would not have traded that experience for the world. I'm super excited to get a little bit more into it later in this presentation. So thanks for having me here.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Hama. I'm a 4th year student at the University of Texas at Austin. I'm currently studying health policy and double minoring in government and German. And with that minor, I went and studied abroad with AIFS in Salzburg, Austria in the fall 2019 semester. And it's my favorite thing in the world to relive and talk about. So I'm super excited to talk to you all about it and hopefully pass on any information I can.
And then Marie, if you want to go ahead.
Hey everyone, my name is Marie Schaller. I'm an Education Abroad coordinator here at CSU. And if you have any questions throughout this presentation or have any questions in general, the Education Abroad email address is educationabroad@colostate.edu, and we'd love to connect with you.
Wonderful, thank you. So just a quick overview about AIFS in general. We're one of the older study abroad organizations. We've been around since 1964, so over 50 years, y'all can do the math. And through that time, we have worked with a little more than 1.5 million students who have gone on one of our programs, whether it's a semester program, a summer program, a J-term program. You may be wondering why we have a couple of students who aren't Colorado students here. They may not have had the exact same experience with you with what you'd have pre-application, but they did have, an overseas AIFS experience. And since we're highlighting a couple of their program locations, I do want them to, they're the best advocates for those locations. And so, yeah, so we'll kind of go ahead. So just a quick overview of what we'll talk about today. We're going to go, from the very basics to why do you want to study abroad, especially if this is, your initial interaction with study abroad opportunities, talk about various program locations, do a brief, overview of the application process, and then everyone's favorite, maybe not favorite question, but everyone's, most popular question, scholarships and grants. How are we going to pay for all of this? And then we'll open up the rest of the time for, chatting more with both Natalie and Lauren and asking any questions that you may have had throughout the process of this presentation. So first of all, the why. If you're just beginning, I guess, to research studying abroad, you're kind of probably wondering why you would even want to do this in the first place, especially with what's happened the past couple of months or decade, as it feels like for most of us. But I think that there's still really important reasons to consider going abroad. We sort of believe that leaving your comfort zone, learning outside of the US is really important, and you'll gain a lot of skills that you may not have gained, sitting in your dorms or your apartments in Fort Collins. Less than % of college students still study abroad. So oftentimes, the experience ends up being one of the first things that pops out on your resume as you begin your job hunt. Okay, so we're going to try video and see if this works out. This is a message from some of our past alumni ambassadors about, why they chose to study abroad with AIFS and some of the reasons why they think you should as well.
Hey, Michelle, I don't know if it's just me, but I can't hear the video.
I can't either. I thought it was
Can't
just
you
me.
hear? Darn, guys. Hold on, sorry. See, this is that technical issue that we have fallen into. Thank you for jumping in. Let me see if I can escape this portion. If I can. I did pull it up on YouTube just in case we had this happen. So jump in if it happens again. Is it good?
We can only see the presentation.
It's still not working?
You have to share the YouTube screen, I think. It's still on the presentation. So complicated these days.
Sorry, everybody. It was going so well.
That's totally understandable.
Let's try this. All right. Let's go here. At least now we know. Is it sharing the YouTube screen yet?
Yeah, you're good.
Is it good? Or no?
Yeah.
All right. Let's try. No?
No audio.
Nope. All right. You know what? Let's just skip the video for now. It's totally fine. So you can go on our website and we can share the link for that with you afterwards. But let's go back to the actual presentation. New share. Technology. Are we back on?
Yeah, we're good.
Cool. All right, y'all. So head over to our YouTube site and you can watch that. And as the kids say, give it a big thumbs up, subscribe. So for today, we'll go ahead and move on. There's a few programs that Colorado State asked us to kind of focus on during this presentation. A few of them are the ones that are listed here, but we do have locations in over 20 countries around the world. So this is just a few of them that are popular with Colorado State students, locations that, folks have been able to find the right courses at, have found, things that have matched. So that's why we're kind of focusing on these areas. Okay. First off, I do want to give just a really, quick look at the types of programs that AIFS offers. We have traditional study abroad programs, which means, you're in the classroom, you're taking courses at a university, somewhat similar to what you're doing in Fort Collins right now. Well, not right now, but, during the before. We also have internships and we have community engagement options. Community engagement is basically the opportunity to take courses and get academic credit whilst working within the local community. So when I talk about Stellenbosch, kind of the option that we have there that's been really popular with y'all. We do semester and we do academic year courses. We do summer programs. So those are anywhere from 2 weeks to 12 weeks. Most programs end up falling between 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the location. And they tend to be pretty flexible with dates. So take a look at those if you're looking to try and fit something in between, you know, a job back on campus or, you know, an internship that you have here in the US. And then we also have programs that are January-based programs. Some of these start right after the Christmas holiday during winter break, and then usually come back either the week before Martin Luther King or Martin Luther King week. Everything's kind of up in the air with dates right now, but take a look at those. They may work with some of your academic credit as well, academic, you know, calendar options. And then briefly just about the courses. Our programs are open to all majors from all different areas. That doesn't mean that every program is going to have the courses that you need. So sometimes you'll have to do a little bit of research on figuring out what works best for you. And, you know, especially if you have your heart set on a location and it doesn't have the classes that you need, you know, maybe talk to your academic advisor, look into other program options, look into other cities within that country, and see if you can kind of piece it together and figure it out. I always suggest students talk with their, you know, study abroad office, so talk with Marie or anyone else in the office, or talk with your academic advisor as early as possible to really figure out when the best time is to go abroad and what courses you can and cannot take abroad. You know, for example, I wasn't able, you know, I was a communication major as an undergrad, and my communication college was very strict on what I couldn't take. So I ended up finishing up my minor there as opposed to taking my major courses. All of our programs do not require a language requirement either. So if you want to go to Russia and you don't speak Russian yet, you know, fluently yet, I don't know many people who speak it fluently, you can go and you can take courses in English, and then you can also take courses in, you know, beginning Russian language. You know, if you are fluent in Russian, you can definitely take courses, you know, that are based in the language as well. Same goes for, you know, a lot of our, you know, other programs that are based in countries that aren't English speaking, or English isn't their first language. One of the things that I always like to highlight about AIFS, and one of the reasons why I actually chose this program when I was an undergrad, was because of everything that it included. So it was an all-inclusive program, which, what does that even mean, right? That basically means that everything that you sort of need whilst you're abroad, we kind of offer and give included in the budget, the fees. So it helps with budgeting. So your housing, your meal plan, various, you know, social and cultural activities, different excursions. It's sort of different for every location, but you know, across the board, most, you know, our AIFS programs all sort of offer these as an option. Each location also has an on-site resident director. As Natalie and Lauren know, a lot of them have been around for a very long time. And so they work very closely with the students throughout the entire semester. Before you go abroad, we also have pre-departure services. You're working with our office in Stamford, Connecticut through the application process. And then once you return, we have alumni opportunity as well. So Natalie and Lauren are both alumni ambassadors with us. And we also help do a lot of professional development, how to put study abroad on your resume, things like that. So I was going to try and play a video, but I don't think I'm going to go through that again. So the first program I really wanted to highlight was Stellenbosch. And you know, for a lot of folks, South Africa is maybe not their first choice destination. Some folks are, and actually Colorado, I sort of misspoke. A lot of Colorado State students, you know, that is their first choice, which I love. It's actually my top destination that I want to go to as soon as we are allowed to get on plane then. But Stellenbosch is based just outside of Cape Town. It's sort of known as being in wine country. It's, from what I've heard, I've had a lot of colleagues who have been there personally, and they, you know, they say it's a very laid back part of the area, of the region, and is a great kind of university town. So it may have a similar feel to Colorado State is sort of what I imagine. Although you all have beer, they have wine. The university was traditionally a white Afrikaans university, but over the course of its kind of 100-year history, it's really diversified itself and has evolved to be much more inclusive to students from all different backgrounds. What's kind of cool about that aspect, though, is that the university, has learned from its history, and so it's not afraid to have tough, conversations in the classroom. They talk a lot about, race and social justice and the darker history of apartheid in South Africa. A lot of our students really appreciate that, that ability to be candid and open with their fellow classmates as well as their professors. The city has a ton, of different museums and coffee shops, and it's a really thriving art scene as well. So whenever I'm trying to, talk with students, and it's a little bit more challenging in the virtual space too, because you're not here. I'm trying to always give you just a little taste of what it may feel like to be in that city and in that location. Our resident director there, Hestia, she's been with AIFS since 2003. So she really becomes a mother hen with all of the students, and she's one of our most popular resident directors, not only for her longevity, but just her excited nature. We did a reunion with AIFS alumni and her 3 or 4 years ago, and 200 students from all over the US met her in New York to kind of go back and see her and see each other. So the connections that you make in such a short period of time are pretty amazing and somewhat unexpected. And I'm sure all of the returnee students feel the same way. One of the things, the university has a ton of different courses that you can take. You can do the traditional, study abroad classroom space. Because the university is all in English, it's really open course-wise. There's a lot of econ, there's a lot of political science, there's a lot of social sciences, there's a lot of different areas of study. But the area that I really wanted to focus on, because I think it is a highlight of the location, is being able to do service learning, or what is now commonly known as community engagement. So this is an option for students who are interested in education. If you go to our website and see the video, it's an education major who is spending time a couple times a week in a local township classroom. And so all of their academic credit is based in this one program. So she's not necessarily taking electives at this point. She's taking courses that are specifically geared towards community engagement and education. So it can kind of be customized to what you're looking to do. You're still taking 12 to 16, semester units, but you're spending about 3 days a week working in an actual classroom. So you're getting to know people firsthand. You're getting to see, some of the challenges and some of the opportunities and, some of the successes of courses, of classrooms outside of the US. It's always great to be able to do a comparison of what we know. That's one of my favorite things about, studying abroad or traveling abroad is seeing what is happening in other countries. How does education, how does, social structures work? What do they do with the homeless population? And so the service learning program offers you that opportunity to do that. Nope, we're gonna keep moving. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Lauren if you want to talk about Salzburg.
Definitely. So it's funny, actually, this slide, that's my friend Caitlin. We studied abroad together on them on there. But anywho, I'm Lauren. So I studied in Salzburg in the fall of 2019 semester, as I mentioned before. So a little bit about why I chose Salzburg to begin with. First of all, I knew I wanted to be in a mountainous area because probably like lots of you in Colorado, my favorite thing to do is hike and explore outside. Second of all, I knew that I wanted to be in a central location to be able to easily travel around Europe into places like Germany, where I have family, Italy, Hungary, Croatia, wherever. So Austria is has a great central location for that. And lastly, as I just mentioned, I have family near Munich, which is in southern Germany, also known as Bavaria. And I'm minoring in German, so I wanted to be able to truly experience Austrian and Bavarian culture firsthand. So my actual experience there was nothing short of incredible. As I said, I was there in the fall, so when I arrived, it was 80 degrees in September, and when I left, it was 20 degrees and snowing in December. But it was really incredible to see Usually I celebrate the holidays back home with my family, as do most of you, but it was really interesting to see different traditions within Austria. For example, the entire region celebrates Advent, which is a Christian holiday leading up to, season leading up to Christmas, although it's more tradition than in the religion now. But you get to see Christmas markets, villages decorating for Advent, all these pretty lights and trees. It's beautiful. But aside from the holidays itself, kind of the overall vibe of the city in itself was really incredible because it's a small city. So it's small and, intimate enough where you can get to know locals and really just get to know and be like immersed in the city itself. But it's also big enough to where there's always something that you can do. There's nightlife, there's all those shops and restaurants and beer gardens and whatever that you could possibly want to do. So I always tell people that it's literally the perfect place for anybody, unless you're trying to be in like New York City. But with the exception of that, it's the perfect place for anybody. It's surrounded by the Alps, that you can sit along the river that goes right through it. So it's amazing. There's also a huge music and art scene because it was the birthplace of Mozart. It kind of became like an epicenter of classical music and art. And while it's evolved from just classical music, it's definitely very prevalent within the city. So that's really incredible to see just as you're like walking along the streets. It's also very active. Austria and Germany in general are very green and very environmentally conscious areas, and people's lifestyles in general are very outdoorsy, very active. It's kind of designed around being a town that people bike in rather than drive in. And that really resonated with me. So I enjoyed that. I rented a bike one day and just rode through, and it was really, really pretty. Something that's generally prominent within Austrian and Bavarian culture in general is going out to cafes and like coffee shops, but it's very frowned upon to do homework there. So you go and you get coffee and a pastry and you chat with a friend for like 4 hours. But I think it's really beautiful that people do that. Like no one takes the time to do that here. And similar to that is then at night, even all throughout the week, people go out to beer gardens or to restaurants and just take forever to eat, honestly. But it's really great to take the time to slow down and connect with people around you. So it's definitely very ingrained within the culture to have like a balance between work and play. So that's really incredible to experience. It's a little bit different from the US. A little bit about the academics there. I took some of my favorite classes I've ever taken while I was abroad. I had one professor, I don't know if I should say his name. I don't know if that's like a privacy thing, but okay. So his name's Stefan Bali. He is the coolest man in the world. He taught 2 classes, contemporary Austrian culture and a history of European socialism. And those 2 in conjunction were really interesting to take while I was there because I learned the whole historical background of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, its role in World War II, and kind of like Michelle, you were saying about in South Africa, they're very blunt about their history. They're very like needing to accept the roles that they played in dark parts of their history. So it was really interesting to be able to learn from him and see how that plays out in everyone that I'm meeting on the streets in modern Austria. And I also took art history, which was cool because art is all around Europe, so I get to actually see it. That was a core requirement for UT, so I figured I might as well take it while I can look at the art. And then lastly, international conflict and resolution, which counted for my government minor. For housing stuff, I stayed in a residence hall. The majority of people in our program did. I think a few people stayed in homestays, but I personally shared a room and a bathroom with my roommate. And then in my dorm, we had a communal kitchen with private like cubbies and the cabinets to store your food and your own pots and pans and whatnot. We also got a free bus pass each month, which was super useful for getting into town since my dorm was on the outer part of the city. The AIFS on-site staff kind of works with several different international housing dormitories around the city. So there's definitely pros and cons to being inside the city and on the outer side, but either way with the bus pass, you can really easily explore kind of all around Salzburg, which is really cool. Some of my favorite parts about the program, aside from like the experience, but the program itself, As Michelle was mentioning, the AIFS is all inclusive. So I chose not to do the flight package since I went over early to visit my family in Germany. But the rest of the program just made the transition abroad so smooth because I didn't have to worry about, the legal and logistical aspects of being there, such as health insurance. And like in Austria, you have to establish temporary residence there. So AIFS was really great about either taking care of that or guiding us through that whole process. And kind of along those lines was the balance between independence and assistance that the on-site staff gave us. They were always available to answer whatever questions we had about the very complicated Austrian laundry systems or, healthcare or mail or whatever, but also set up so that we can make the experience however we wanted it to be. So that I really appreciated that. That was probably my favorite parts about the program. And I guess just to finish off, a few tips and tricks. I'd say pack light and pack layers. Bring copies of all of your paperwork of like legal paperwork that AIFS recommends you to do, such as your visa and those things. It literally saved me and my friend from getting stuck in Italy one time. And lastly, go to O'Malley's and coffee press while you're there. You will not regret it. But that's all from me. Back to you, Michelle.
Like we're in a news broadcast. Thanks, Lauren. Well, thank you so much for that overview. And Lauren, you can roll your eyes at me, but I was in Salzburg a couple of years ago, and I had been wanting to go to Salzburg for many years because I was one of those Sound of Music fans growing up watching that movie with my family. So it was a dream come true, and it's not disappoint at all. All right. All right, Natalie, if you want to take on Salamanca.
Yeah. So Lauren, that's actually pretty funny that you mentioned the cafe aspect, because I guess this picture on the left is obviously of people in cafes. But it's funny because people in Salamanca as well, like go to cafes and just talk for hours. But people do their homework there, like that's where me and my friends would go to do our homework. Literally just occupy tables in cafes for like 3-4 hours, like every afternoon. So it's pretty funny. But why I chose Salamanca was mostly due to my minor. I wanted to finish up my minor. I only had 2 credits left for last semester when I went abroad. So actually, originally, I was going to go study in the Viña del Mar program that AIFS has in Chile. I don't know why, but like since high school, I was so attracted to going to Chile. And I saw that AIFS had a program. I was like, okay, I'll go. But I was looking at the timeline, and I guess the logistics didn't really match up. I needed to be back at the end of May for an internship that I had this past summer. But all of the Spain programs worked out really well for that because their timeline's a bit more shifted. They start in the end of January and end, beginning to mid-May. So that worked out great. And then Salamanca specifically, out of all the Spain programs, it's very hard to choose a program because they all seem so awesome. But I was really attracted to Salamanca because first off, it just fit my degree best. I took a mix of business and Spanish classes. So I was able to finish my minor, and then the 3 business classes I took actually counted directly towards my major, which was great. But I was also really attracted to Salamanca because it was so different than my hometown, my home university of University of South Carolina, and just like every single aspect. I think University of Salamanca is the 3rd oldest university in operation. It was founded in like 1134 or something, which is so insane. And you can definitely see that kind of history and culture when you go, which is so awesome. But to go a little bit more into my courses, like Lauren, I took some of my favorite courses when I was in Salamanca. I took Spanish culture, which was actually literally just Salamanca culture. And it was taught in Spanish, and it was so interesting because a lot of events in Salamanca are so, you need to be in the cultural know to really understand what's going on. There's not a lot of context behind them. They just kind of pop up. Like my friends and I would walk through the plaza, the main plaza, and we'd see just like hundreds of students that were not abroad students dressed in costumes. And we were like, what are they doing? Like, where are they coming from? And literally later that day in class, we asked our professor, and he was like, oh yeah, we're learning about that today in class. It's all the law students celebrating like the end of their first exams or something. They all dress up in costumes and go out. So it was really interesting to kind of learn about the events specific to Salamanca as we were seeing them. And I also took a class that was history of the woman in Spain. And like Lauren mentioned, there's so much just art in Europe. And a lot of the one we learned about like Las Meninas, which is like a famous painting about the history of women in Spain, and kind of seeing that and just a lot of other art women traveling within Europe really tied that whole experience together. So it was super, super awesome. And as for housing, I lived in a homestay, and I think every single person in the program, except for two girls who were from Puerto Rico, very fluent in Spanish, they stayed in an apartment, but everyone else stayed in a homestay. And I mean, that was so amazing. It was me, my roommate, who was also in the program. And then we had a third roommate who was actually also an alumni of AIFS, and she loved the program in Salamanca so much that she decided to come back to Salamanca and do grad school there. So she was living with the same host mom she had for the past 3 years, which was so awesome because, she was an American, but also knew so much about like the cultural ends of Salamanca. So she was able to take us out to like the pueblos and, her favorite restaurants and stuff. But I mean, we had breakfast, lunch, and dinner with our host. It was just a host mom, but it was so awesome because she made us the best food. And every dinner we'd watch different reality TV shows, which was definitely a highlight. First dates in Spain, which I didn't know was a thing. We watched for a majority of our dinners, and it was so interesting comparing like those types of dating reality TV shows to the ones that are back home, like The Bachelor. And it's like you could really see the cultural social acceptance things that people do on first dates in Spain. So that was very funny. But yeah, I mean, one of my favorite aspects of Salamanca is again like the history of it, and that it is just so different from America in general. I mean, it really made me appreciate how young America is. Like just thinking about the fact that this universities in like from the 1100s, like that's just mind-boggling to me. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the university is like a boring little town. I think there's a thriving student population. There's a lot of nightlife, and when people say that Spaniards eat very late and go out very late, that is very true, because sometimes we'd have dinner at 9. So that took some getting used to, but it really helped me maximize my time there, I think. I'm a little bit of a homebody, but having dinner that late and then having friends say, hey, do you want to go get like churros at a little cafe after dinner, like at 11, I'd be like, okay, why not? So definitely one of my favorite aspects. And then I also want to harp on the fact that the resident directors at AIFS are like the absolute best. I think because I studied in spring 2020, I had to come back because of the coronavirus, obviously. But I mean, I had a whole issue with my airline ticket. But when I was in the airport, I called the resident director. Her name is Gay. I was like, Gay, like I don't know how to like talk to these people about my airline ticket. Like I'm okay at speaking Spanish, but when it comes to like negotiating like my airline ticket and like figuring out why like it said it wasn't even existing, like I need some help. And literally within minutes she was there. She like pushed her way to the front of the line. She was like, this girl needs to get on a plane. So I mean, yeah, just that. And going out to eat with Gay and like the other AIFS staff there, and them teaching us how to order drinks or order tapas, just I feel like is such a unique experience, and I'm so grateful to have had that through AIFS. And she still checks in on us, so it definitely feels like I have family back there. But yeah.
Perfect. Yes, I love hearing from both of you. It's like I feel especially with Gay and a lot of the other Spanish RDs, you do become their family for life. And so it's one of my I keep saying it's one of my favorite things, but it's one of the best things about AIFS is it becomes like a family. With the resident directors, with your fellow students. I remember when I studied abroad, one of the most surprising things was just how close that student group got within, the 4 months that we were together, longer than, I was with most of my college friends. And I'm still actually closer to those study abroad students years later than I am with a lot of people I spent, 3.5, 4 years with at my home campus. So I know for the two of you, it'll continue to grow. Thank you both. The last program I want to highlight is a pretty unique option, and one that the AIFS does quite a bit, and are constantly growing this program model, is a summer travel program. And so these programs are offered during the summer. They tend to last between 3 to 5 weeks is the norm, and each one of them has a theme. And so you can kind of see for this one, it's the fashion marketing program. It doesn't stay in one location. So if you have your heart set on, not staying in one place during the summer, you just want to get a taste of Europe or another, location. We do them also in Australia, and we have had them in Asia in the past. You can kind of take a look at these programs. This one specifically is really popular for students who, you don't necessarily need to be like real, a fashion major. If you're interested in marketing, textiles, you want to get some hands-on experience in a pretty unique way. This is a great option for you. For this program, it's 3 credits. So you're just taking one course on these. You're kind of focusing all in on that one subject, that one course. And you're kind of moving around, for this one, you're moving around the continent and you're seeing some of the fashion capitals of the world. You start off in London and then you end in Rome, and you can kind of see the list of cities that are listed there. So you do Paris, Switzerland, Venice, Florence. You're all over, and you're doing visits on top of taking the course. So you're traveling with your faculty member and other students. These programs tend to be about, depending on the program and then the time of the summer, tend to be between 20 and about 35 to 40 students. So you're studying together, you're learning together, and throughout the day, you're not just sitting in a classroom, in a hotel or something like that. You are doing visits with local companies, you're meeting local artisans, you're going to all the different markets around around the city that you're in, getting to know different companies, things like that. They take you to places where they're actually making various goods. So it gives you a really cool and different way of seeing that field, that option, especially if you are interested in wanting to do that later on in life. You also kind of take a look at all the different architecture that's going on. It's really kind of a class that encompasses a lot of Europe. You would need to talk to your study abroad office and your academic advisor to figure out what actual credit you'd be getting for that course. A lot of students end up just taking it as a general education course or a core class, but definitely chat with the advisors before, if you are interested in this program option. So I just want to quickly talk about the application process. I had a really great video. Check out our website. But basically, we try and make it as easy as possible. It's sort of the motto that we kind of have at AIFS, is we try and do as much as we can to support you in as many ways as we can by making, your goals and your plans of studying abroad, easy to obtain. So everything's done online now. That shouldn't be a surprise. You can go onto our website, look at the program, look at all the different options that you have, and then apply via our website. You also really, at this point, want to be in contact with the study abroad office. It's sort of it's a two-hand approach, right? So you're working with, Marie and everyone in that study abroad office, as well as working with our admissions officers over in Connecticut. So between, everyone, as well as yourself, as you're, doing your own research and preparing to go abroad, we're all kind of trying to help you in various areas, but you need to make sure that you're filling out all the applications that you need to fill out, and preparing that way. Most of our programs are about a 2.5 GPA and above. Some of them have 3.0 GPAs. Just check our website for the most up-to-date information. If you do fall below that GPA, don't sweat too much. Most program locations are fairly flexible. So, we may ask for an additional, a letter of recommendation or a personal statement, as to why, you may have had some challenges early on in your academic career, or, something happened or whatever. Most of our schools, take the GPA as just a piece of your application, and they look at more of the holistic option. We do have a $95 application fee that's required, and then deposits once you are admitted to the program. Throughout this program, throughout the application process and the admissions process, you will be making, your decisions about what kind of housing you want to make. Some programs only have homestays. Some programs have multiple options, like both Lauren and Natalie's programs. So you'll be working with that, working with, medical forms, things like that. So just check out the website. It's pretty easy. It's a very, basic one-page application. I will say, just for, if you are considering going abroad in the spring or summer and you don't have a passport yet, definitely try and get the application in sooner rather than later. Like everything right now, things are pretty backed up in various government offices and things like that. So that's something that you should just go ahead and get if you can. Now, the big money question. So really quickly about scholarships and grants. Over 50% of our students do receive financial support from AIFS in the form of some form of scholarship or grant. So for all Colorado State students, Colorado State has been a partner of AIFS for a number of years, and they do receive, each of you would receive a grant automatically off of your program fees. So if you were to go abroad for a semester, it would be a $400 grant. And if you were to go abroad during the summer or J-term, it's a $200 grant. This comes automatically off of your program fees. I know it's not a huge amount of money, but you're chipping away, with every little bit. So, every little bit gets you closer to your goal. But on our website, you can kind of see here, or you can, Google it. At home, you can see a list of all the different scholarships and grants that we offer that are specifically for AIFS. And then we also have lists of scholarships and grants that are outside of the organization that you can utilize on any program options. So if you are, if you are looking to study abroad and you're looking into AIFS and something happens and you decide, there's this faculty-led program that's led by CSU that's really interesting too. There may be some scholarship opportunities listed on our website that are open to those programs. So just make sure as you're looking through, there's things like the Gilman Scholarship, there's the Fulbright, there's scholarships through Diversity Abroad, through FEA, all of that. So I have some links to those at the end of this presentation too. You definitely need to plan ahead and talk to your financial aid office though. So I know Colorado State has historically been great with financial aid, but things change all the time. So just talk with, your financial aid officer to see if, any of your personal scholarships, your personal grants that you already have will go abroad with you, federal aid, state aid, things like that. So you just want to make sure that those will work on our program. And we have budget sheets that we have for students and for the office as well. So you can kind of work with work with the financial aid office to kind of just make sure that all of your ducks are in a row. So I'm going to open it up to questions now. So feel free to throw your questions in the chat box if you want. I've got some questions already for these students to answer. I think they did such a great job of giving overviews too. But I want to start out with you for both Natalie and Lauren. You both studied abroad in locations that were not English speaking. Did you have any challenges with that? Or do you think students who may not know the language well, do you think that they'll be able to kind of be successful during their time abroad?
So I'd say I'm pretty good at speaking Spanish. At least I definitely thought so before going to Spain. But I mean, it was interesting to learn that, or not to learn, but to kind of really come to terms with the fact that the Spanish that we're really taught, at least at my school and throughout high school, is more of like South American or Mexican Spanish. So definitely very different. I think particularly in Salamanca, you don't need a super high level of Spanish, but it's very important to note that they do not really speak English there compared to like Madrid. When I went, if I was like, I don't know what this is on the menu, they would explain to me in English, but they didn't really do that so much in Salamanca. So definitely interesting to note, but you can get around if you have like very basic, like, hello, I need help, etc. So yeah, I think it's really open to all levels. You take a test, I think which is, the same for many programs in AIFS. You take a language test. And so that really helps you with kind of the academic aspect of, what type of languages you want to, or what level of language you want to take if you're taking a language class. So that helps. But yeah, I would just recommend just like very basic Spanish, but at least some Spanish for Salamanca.
For Salzburg, not really, honestly. I think, well, not really that you need it. I don't know. Okay, I forgot how the question was posed, but anywho. So as I said, I'm minoring in German. However, before I went abroad, I'd only taken one semester the previous spring and then forgot all of it over the summer and then went abroad. So I had very little knowledge going into it. Probably about 80% of the people that I studied with had never even been exposed to any German. I've been exposed to very small amounts from either my family or taking one semester of it. But almost everyone while I was there was taking the beginner level German class. I just couldn't because it didn't transfer back to my home institution. But almost everyone there was taking it, and everyone would be so excited to, try to practice it, like ordering a coffee or saying hello to the locals and saying how are you and stuff. But in all throughout the primary and secondary schooling in Germany and Austria, both, they are learning English at the same time. So students and kids are growing up learning English. So it's very commonly spoken in Salzburg. Maybe in some of the smaller like villages and stuff, it's not quite as commonly spoken, but everyone, the majority at least of people, have a very basic knowledge of English at the least, but most people there in the region are fluent. And they'll be just as excited to practice their English on you as you are to practice your German with them. So no one I knew had any issues, really.
Very cool. And I have a question for both of you. So the two of you, you both studied abroad in Europe. And I think what a lot of students want to do when they get to Europe is they want to go everywhere. They want to travel every weekend. They want to do every country possible. Do you have any advice for students who may be wanting to travel quite a bit during their time abroad?
Definitely. So for me personally, I worked for about 2 years before I went abroad to save money because I had this goal since like junior year of high school that I wanted to study abroad. So of course that's somewhat extreme, I guess, but you do have to definitely save money. And for me personally, I know that if I don't stick to a budget, I will spend all my money in one day. So I definitely had to kind of plan early and really come up with like a monthly plan. And I didn't really know how to do that before I went abroad. So I was kind of definitely crowdsourcing for any help I could get on budgeting. But I really mostly talked to my dad and my brother who are good with finances and just kind of try to come up with some sort of monthly goal on how to budget for trips. And it helped that my brother had studied abroad. So he kind of helped with, how much flights usually cost or how much trains usually cost and that kind of thing. And I think just having a general idea of that is super helpful and super necessary at the beginning of the semester to know that, make sure that you have enough money in case of any emergencies, for any possible health related things, whatever it may be. If, COVID's a thing and you have to buy a flight randomly home, I don't know how all that worked personally, but, in any event like that, and also just to eat, so you have to definitely be very mindful of your budget and plan early. That being said, it's really important, and to me at least, when I was abroad, to be able to go with the flow. So I'm a bit of a control freak, kind of like type A. So I was like, oh, I need to have them planned out weeks in advance, and while that is good, like definitely good to do, there was one trip that we did that was we planned it like 4 days prior, and all we knew was how we were getting there and where we were staying, and that was it. And I think it's important to find that balance of both things, but just definitely always be mindful of your budget and your own limitations otherwise.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I think Lauren mentioned this, but you didn't do the flight package, did you? Or
No, I didn't.
okay, yeah, because I was looking into the flight package because I know for Salamanca, people stopped in London and, got to know each other a little bit better and explore parts that weren't Salamanca, obviously. So I really wanted to do that, but I had found a very, very cheap flight ticket to Europe for like $500 to Lisbon. a couple weeks before the program started. So I just was like, I'm just going to take it. And so that actually really helped me first get to Europe in general on a budget, but also gave me the opportunity to just hop around, Portugal and Spain just by myself for a couple weeks before the program actually started, because I had like a month and a half or so between when my home university ended and when Salamanca was going to start. So that definitely helped. And just utilizing, a budget is also very helpful, I think. I also did not have prior experience to that, but I think I leveraged just different university resources. My school had, financial workshops through the study abroad office. So definitely do whatever you can through CSU to kind of, just see, how can I have a budget for myself? I think that's very, very important. But at the same time, I think it also is important to kind of just say yes to every opportunity. When my friends were texting me at 11 p.m. saying, hey, let's go get churros, I didn't want to say no and, regret that for the rest of my life, So definitely having the flexibility to do something, some things on the spot is very important, at least to me. And I think that could be very helpful, to you as well. And just learning about the culture and everything, and really maximizing your experience. But the point of that was you need a budget. You can't just say yes to everything and, spend all your money in one go. But with that being said, I think it also is important to explore your city that you're studying abroad in too. Like not just go to other cities every single weekend. Like, my friends and I would take, some weekends off and just explore Salamanca and go to different museums, or even take like a 15-minute bus ride to the pueblos outside Salamanca. So that's very important to keep in mind. And that's also a lot cheaper too than, buying a plane ticket to a different country. If you have bus passes for like €5, that's just, a really great resource to have.
Very cool. And I see Marie has popped in. Hello again, Marie.
Hi, everyone. I've really enjoyed hearing all this and learning all about the programs and your experiences, Natalie and Lauren. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to share with you so it'll get on the recording. So we do have some resources on our website, as well as some options for for looking into safety and the State Department and things like that. And then if you all out there in virtual world want to get in touch with me, here's my contact information. You can shoot me an email or give me a phone call. You can also make an appointment with me on my calendar. But I'm looking forward to chatting with anyone further throughout the semester or whenever you're watching this about getting y'all abroad as soon as we can. So thank you. And thank you to Natalie and Lauren and Marie for helping us host this.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And I just want to say, I believe both of Lauren and I's contacts are on the AIFS website if you just have any questions. So yeah.
Yeah, echo that.
Exactly.
But,
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, if we're all set, then I'll bid you both or all three of you adieu, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Marie. Have a good rest of your evening. And thanks, Natalie, for staying up late. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Have a good one.
Bye.